But what people do care about is Jim Salisbury.
Maybe Jim can help my fantasy baseball team.
I don't think so.
We went from like first to seventh really fast.
I don't think so. Yeah. We're going to welcome in friend of the program, Jim Salisbury. Jim, I would imagine that it was your working profession for all those years. You never really played fantasy baseball, or did you?
I never played fantasy baseball. I watch real baseball. I never played. I'm trying to turn my volume up. I never played fantasy baseball.
Okay, I figured.
Nor football, nor golf.
Yeah.
When you do this stuff kind of round the clock and then year round,
free time consumed by it.
Sleeping with the cell phone next to your head during the trade deadline, during the winter meetings.
Yeah.
You kind of, you unplug a little bit. So fantasy baseball is out. Though I love the game. I love watching the highlights on MLB Network. I used to love Baseball Tonight. I used to love going back to the hotel room after a road game and watching Baseball Tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, no fantasy. Sorry.
So, Jim, a lot to get to, including the trade rumors that are out there. But first and foremost, let's get to the London series. I thought it was a lot of fun. As Bryce Harper put it, I thought baseball was kind of secondary this weekend. It is, a marketing expedition by Major League Baseball to grow the game. I thought seeing the 08 guys with the current team, a party in the Tower of London, the Fanatic running loose all over London. I thought it was a really cool, fun weekend. And the results of the game, kind of who cares?
Well, I care about the results of the game. That's why all that exists. It's to promote the game. But I know what you're saying. It had a carnival atmosphere to it. Much like the World Baseball Classic, it's all about, globalizing the game and monetizing the game globally. It's a business venture, but it's also a lot of fun for people. Just once again, confirmation on what a great sports town Philadelphia is. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I think it's the best sports town in America. I think the fans here are the best in all of sports. And I know Boston's good, New York's good, Chicago's good, the Bay Area, but Dallas Cowboys fans. I mean, these fans are just crazy the way they travel. I mean, you see it at the Winter Classic. You see it when the Eagles play abroad, and now you see it when the Phillies play abroad. You see it in Clearwater every March.
Mm-hmm.
The fans love to mobilize and get out there and show their red pinstripes and have a lot of fun. And Bryce Harper put on a show, didn't he, with the walk-up music and the bat, and it hit me as I was watching him hit that home run and do that slide. Thank God he didn't catch his knees in that spongy turf.
I was thinking that. I was literally thinking that.
But, I mean, he is such a performer, and the ball field is his stage, regardless of where it is. He is baseball's Freddie Mercury. Would you agree?
I like that.
I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a great showman.
He's a showman, and he puts on the different color shoes and all the other accoutrements, and he's baseball's Freddie Mercury.
You'll have to run that by him next time you see him, Jim.
Well, they're both showmen. I'm sure he'd understand what I'm saying. And Freddie Mercury died in 1992. So I don't even know what year Bryce was born. But you know what I'm saying?
92, actually. I'm pretty sure.
Great showman. And they put on a great show, and they're great at what they do. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah. It was fun to watch and great to see Bryce just embrace that moment to be able to fully showcase, for the world. This is what baseball's about. This is what the Phillies are all about. We also got this past weekend kind of an awakening in a number of guys. It felt like the London series was their chance to maybe break out of some slumps. Whit Merrifield with a 3-run homer, had 4 RBIs this weekend and 4 RBIs all season coming into the weekend. More RBIs, I should say, in London than the season. Nick Castellanos, another big one that really feels like he's hit his stride. In the 7 games in June so far, you look at his numbers, he's had 5 RBIs, 2 home runs. He's had a hit in almost every game in June. He's scored a run in almost every game in June. He seems like he's really coming alive, and this weekend was another chance to see Nick continue that. Have you felt that change and seen that change in Nick's play as he's really working out of what was a slump to now be what we expected Nick Castellanos to be for the Phillies this season?
You're definitely seeing more production, and if maybe he had better wood and his bat didn't explode, they win that game yesterday. But yeah, he had that home run. I think in his last 16 games, he's got an OPS in the mid 800s. He's really kind of coming alive, and I still think there's more there. It's kind of what we talked about really from the first week of the season on. He's a streaky guy, and when he gets going, he can be a real doubles machine, extra base machine. We saw it for basically 3 months last year in the first half. So his streaks can last a good while, and maybe he's getting something going. The track record's always been good. It seems like his timing is getting, coming around. It seems like he's more confident. And like I said, I think he's got, 5 home runs in the last 16 games. So, and that's getting him going. You mentioned Whit Merrifield. To me, those two guys have real big picture implications, not just, winning that night's game. And that's what you have to do. You have to win that night's game. But, I think if they get going, that could dictate how this team operates at the trade deadline, because I do think they would like to get a little more production from their outfield. I do think their eyes are open in that area. I don't know if it would be a big move or a marginal move, but the size of the move could be dictated by, is Nick coming out of this? Is he going to be the productive bat they need? Is he going to be the productive bat that he can be? Is Merrifield going to give them more? Is Marsh going to come back and give them more? So those are topics under evaluation, and those are topics that Nick's bat will kind of maybe dictate the answer to.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about Trey, but we'll skip that. And we'll just get into the trade rumors that came out, Jim.
They've played really well without Trey. Imagine losing an MVP caliber player and sticking.
It's unbelievable. We will get to that because he's coming back this week. But Jim, Jeff Passan last week tweeted out 3 names that to your common baseball fan are quite sexy, and Luis Robert and Kyle Tucker and Randy Arozarena. We have I think we have doubts here that Kyle Tucker is actually going to become available. But somebody like Luis Robert has gained steam since, and the White Sox are looking for a Juan Soto type of haul, according to Bob Nightingale. McCarthy from Arizona. Jake, is it?
Jake.
He was mentioned yesterday as somebody the Phillies might be looking at. What do you think? You just said Nick's bat is going to kind of, control some things here. If Nick is back over these next 2-3 weeks, is this still something they want to upgrade left field and center field with? Or are they just looking to add a little bit of pop to the outfield no matter where it is?
Well, it depends on what they're going to get out of the guys here. I think they're 25 games over 500. I don't think they need an earth-shaking move. I don't think you need to rip apart the farm system. Everybody's tweeting out those names you mentioned. Those are, kind of big names that could move. And this happens every June. We hear a ton of names, but there's more marginal names that'll be out there. Robert is a sexy name, but he's had trouble staying healthy. Tucker's a really sexy name, but are they really going to move him? I know they've gotten off to a bad start down there in Houston, but they're not far out of the wild card hunt in the American League. I don't know if they're going to move him or not. So I just think it's too early. I think it's not too early to speculate on names that could be available, but I think it's a little early to even know what the Phillies strategy is going to be. I think at this time of year with this ball club, you have to keep all options open. Maybe it's a big move. Maybe it's an around the edges move. And I think all of that is still to be determined. But if it was me, I'd be thinking how I can get a little more offense out of the outfield. And like I said, maybe that problem gets solved within. But if it doesn't, I'd be starting to think of some names. I'd be putting some eyeballs on some names, and I'm sure that's what they're doing. But there are other areas I'd still be looking to maybe get another arm in the bullpen.
So, Jim, the Phillies as well as anybody, and how Dave Dombrowski operates. Do you think this is something where if one of those names is under control for several more years, like a Tucker or a Robert is, or do you think this could be more of like a just supplement via somebody that's cheaper that could help this year? Are they looking for multiple years of control, do you think, if they do go in?
You're always looking for multiple years of control if you're going to give up quality prospects. if you're looking for a quick fix that get somebody to give you kind of a few months to help you get over the hump, you give up less. You'd have to give up less. So I think there's probably a board in Dombrowski's office that has, guys under control, guys on expiring contracts. And then, what you give up correlates to that, I also think, outfield is something I'd have my eye on. And I'm sure they have their eye on, but they might not get to trigger pull stage until the third week of July. And by that time, who knows how things are shaking out in the outfield. You've had more time to look at Rojas. You've had more time to determine if Nick is back. You've had more time to see if Merrifield gets going. More time to look at David Dahl. You never know. So I think they're probably just in information gathering mode now. And I think that information gathering would extend to the bullpen. I also think it would extend, if it was me, it would extend to organizational depth and on the catching side, because JT is just, carried a load and gotten banged up at times this year. So I know you got Marchand back playing again, but he's had trouble staying healthy. You got Stubbs. Something happens on the backup portion. It might be nice to have more. They got a couple guys in AAA in Godoy and Garcia who've played in the big leagues. One of them's on the IL though, but I'd be looking at that area. So it's not just outfield, I think, but that's probably where your sexy names are going to be. They're going to Boston. Kenley Jansen's probably a guy that you might keep an eye on for the deadline for a 2-month rental, depending on how he's throwing, depending on what his workload is. Tyler O'Neill had a great first month. He might be a marginal guy. I know he's really struggled here lately, but he might be a marginal guy you'd look at. So I don't think they've decided if they're going big or marginal, because sometimes in a pennant race and oftentimes when you have a really good team like they have, oftentimes it's that marginal pickup that just pushes you along incrementally and helps make you get better. I look at the Sosa, Edmundo Sosa deal of a couple of years ago. I thought that helped make them incrementally better and helped them get to a World Series. Joe Blanton was an incremental move. Scott Air, all those moves helped them for postseason teams. So I do think they'll be active. And I do think we'll hear big, sexy names, but it wouldn't surprise me if they decide that they're not going to rip up their farm system and they're going to give it a go around the edges.
Yeah. I know you mentioned, Jim, about Edmundo Sosa and even the internal options there as well. He's obviously been on a great tear ever since Trea Turner went down May 4th and Edmundo Sosa got to call in. His numbers have been through the roof. His ability to help the Phillies literally win games has been remarkable. But now we also know Trea is anticipated to return back possibly within the week. His rehabbing and everything has been moving along nicely. He was out in London. He has been working out ground balls, has been increasing his running and his, hitting, and everything's been on track to have him possibly come back this week. So I'm curious your thoughts with Trea Turner's return. Edmundo Sosa's been playing so well. Rob Thompson was asked about possibly getting him some reps in the outfield. Cody Clemens is another one that's been talked about in the outfield and in some various roles, of course, when he's healthy. What are your thoughts now that we are finally here to see at the point of Trea Turner's return of what the Phillies can do moving forward to keep some of these guys like a Sosa involved? You don't want to lose him. It was the same thing with Spencer Turnbull. You don't want to lose him with how well he's playing, but you got to find a way to keep him involved that makes sense in a different role.
Yeah, it makes total sense. You want to keep that bat sharp. It is sharp, and you want to keep it sharp. And the only thing that's going to keep it sharp are some semi-regular reps. I think he can fill in around the infield at any spot. And, I think they'll hit him some balls in the outfield. He did it in spring training a couple of years ago. I think he's athletic enough to go out there and give you some innings and push some people. And maybe he can give you some innings in left field and you can benefit from his bat. I wouldn't rule anything out. I would definitely give it a try if he looks okay in workouts, pregame workouts, early mid-afternoon workouts. 25 games above 500. I think you could experiment with it. You got a guy on the injured list. There might be a couple of guys on the injured list. So yeah, I think it's something you could take a peek at. In a lot of ways, I think maybe Edmundo Sosa has earned it, earned the possibility of getting a look out there if the Phillies think he can handle it defensively.
Yeah, it's all good stuff in Phillies land right now, Jim. We appreciate you joining the show. Of course, if you're a diehard here at All PHLY, you can read Jim's work. A great Rhys Hoskins piece last week, Jim. Good to see Rhys back in town. I would imagine on your end, huh?
Oh, absolutely. He's always a class Philly, and a lot of respect for Rhys. He was there for the rebuild, and he bridged the rebuild, got to a World Series. A lot of factors on why he eventually moved on, but he had a really good run here. It was really great to see the fans embrace him the way they did. I mean, that's another thing I said about the fans, the way they travel. I mean, once you're a Philly athlete, Philadelphia athlete, and you give it your all, and you're not an excuse maker, and you produce a little bit here and there. You might have a bad day here and there, but I think people understand that once, the dust settles and players move on. It was just good to see him get the ovation I thought he deserved.